Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Eugene's April 3rd, 2026 program, Eugene City Council Candidate Forum for Wards 5 and 6. My name is Alyssa Gilbert, President of the City Club of Eugene, and it's my honor to welcome you to another of many forums we've held since 1990 in the name of our mission to build community vision through open inquiry. City Club creates access to our local leaders and provides a platform for Eugene area community members to be heard. In light of the division we're experiencing in the world, I believe it's important now more than ever for us to gather as a community with curious minds and mutual respect. This space to listen, ask, learn, and gather is what City Club aims to provide to our community each week. Anyone who attends a City Club forum has equal access to asking questions in our space. We would love for you to browse our past programs at cityclubofeugene.org or our YouTube or Facebook. Please consider becoming a member if you'd like to support our rigorous volunteer work as Oregon's only city club that provides weekly forums. There are many ways to partner with us, and I'd like to thank our Diamond community sponsors. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. Get more information at uoregon.edu. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. Thank you to Lane County for their generous support and to our web host, 9 Planets, whose website support is critical to our functioning, making it easy to sign up as a member or to learn about us. A quick reminder to please silence all cell phones in the hall. And with that, I turn the mic over to the coordinator of today's program, Eric Jura.
Good afternoon. We have a full slate today. We're doing a candidate forum for 2 wards, 5 candidates total, so I'll try and keep this as brief as possible. In about 30 days, give or take, the Lane County clerk will begin mailing out the ballots for the May 19th primary, which is 46 days away. Today, the candidates will be joining us today are from wards 5 and 6. Three candidates from Ward 5 and 2 from Ward 6. From Ward 5, we have the incumbent Mike Clark, challenger Athena Aguilar, and challenger Jasmine Hatmaker. From Ward 6, we have the incumbent Greg Evans and the challenger Ty Prue-Zimmerman. So the way the program will work is we have a moderator from KLCC that will be asking the questions and so forth, Zach Ziegler. We'll go for approximately half the time, and then we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll take questions from the audience. On the tables you're sitting at, you should see some small pieces of paper. There's also a couple of spare pens in case you don't have one. So if you'd like to ask a question of one of the candidates, please write it, and then during the 5-minute break, there will be people walking around to collect those questions, and then we'll go through that in the second part of the program. So without further ado, I'll introduce our moderator, Zach Ziegler.
All right, thank you, Eric, and thanks everyone who is here today and also those watching online. As you heard, my name is Zach Ziegler. I'm a reporter at KLCC. My first priority today is that this forum be kept civil and that is directed at both the candidates and the audience. So much of our political discourse these days is not that, so let's prove that Eugene can rise above that current tone. To the audience, please refrain from applause until the end. One exception, if it's for me, we'll treat this like a jazz concert. Yes, as much and whenever you feel like. I'm primarily a business and economics reporter, and we all have our natural areas of interest. So the good news is you have those cards. If I don't hit on all the questions you want to hear, make sure to jot something down. We'll try and have as much of this time as we can for you to ask your questions. So that includes, by the way, anyone watching online. That's what the comment section is for. We have people who will be keeping an eye on that as well. We most most likely will not have time for all of your questions, but we'll get to as many as possible. We'll look for some general themes, so you might not hear your question word for word. You'll hear little bits of it. That's what we're going with. So we'll do our best to get as much in as possible. A surefire way to improve the chances that your question gets asked is to write legibly and make sure it has a question mark at the end. Like I said, we're asking for questions, not comments. So we're going to start with introductions, like Eric mentioned. I'll remind you guys, 2 minutes really isn't a long time. It's a little longer than I've been going right now. I timed out my comments. Granted, I didn't take into account how much I'd be pausing for applause or laughs, so about. And we've got someone keeping an eye on the time for you. If you manage to miss it, I will politely give you a nudge to wrap up, trying not to be too big of a jerk. Okay, so for those introductory statements, we will go in alphabetical order, much to the chagrin of someone with double Z initials. And we'll rotate through who gets each first question based on that order. So, Athena Aguiar, you will start us off. It should be on.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay. Just like elementary school, I go first.
Okay, yes.
Well, thank you so much. Such an honor to be here. I'm Athena Aguiar, running to represent Ward 5 on the Eugene City Council. I went to Sheldon, I live in North Eugene, and I love my community. In terms of my experience, I work in the environmental sector. I started out doing field work, removing invasive plant species. Then my work turned more political. I've worked with Environment Oregon and Augsburg to canvass, fundraise, and get environmental protections passed through our state legislature. And through all that time, I've been a loyal city council attendee, and I'm also a library board member. And I did not see my voice represented on our council, which is why I wanted to run to give Ward 5 a progressive choice. I'm running because I want to make Eugene more safe, affordable, and inclusive. Safety means bringing back a CAHOOTS-like crisis response service urgently. That was a huge loss for our community last year. It also means building protected bike lanes and repairing and building new sidewalks, and keeping our environment free of toxins. Right now, safety means keeping ICE out of our community and protecting our immigrant neighbors. Affordability in Eugene, of course, means housing affordability. We need to build new housing, and we need to build in before we build out. We need to upzone and build on our vacant lots. Inclusivity, that means holding on tight to our library, cultural, and recreation services budgets. As I said before, I'm a library board member. I also was on the Library, Cultural, and Recreation Services Working Group, and I saw how essential those services are to our community. I also, as an LGBTQ community member, would love the opportunity to protect our rights and to ensure that Eugene is racially inclusive. I have been out on the doors. I've knocked thousands of doors. This weekend, we're gonna turn the corner on 3,000 doors as a campaign, and I personally have talked to over 1,000 voters. I love hearing from the community, and I hope you will vote for me to give a progressive voice to the Eugene Council and represent all of us in North Eugene.
Great, thank you. All right, Mike Clark, you're next.
Test. Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Clark, and I have had the privilege to represent the people of Ward 5 for a number of terms now. I'm running for re-election because I would like to continue the work that I think needs to be done. There are a number of issues that we need to address, not the least of which is a brand new city manager who's going to need some institutional memory on council when she starts her work and begins to lead the staff. There are any number of things, as I mentioned, that are top issues that the council needs to focus on, up to and including the fire governance discussion that I've been a part of for the last couple of years and needs to be landed well so that all of us are safe. For the next couple of years, that's going to take a process for us to finish discussing with Springfield what it is that we're going to create with an intergovernmental entity that runs the fire department. But all of the things that are issues right now in the city, and almost all things that are necessary to be done, stem from one overarching issue. And it's this: I like to talk about it by mentioning a little joke, and I don't see Grace in here from Lookout, but she and I were laughing about this on the phone the other day, that a little joke that I have with a lot of friends and constituents in Ward 5 is the fact that whenever you see the city council vote on something, and you read about a council vote, and you see that it's 6-2, you can make good money betting on the fact that I was one of the two. And I have been very proud of the idea of being the voice of a dissenting opinion. Over the course of the last several years, 10 to 15 years, it's my belief that council has made a series of wrongly decided decisions, bad decisions, that have put our financial position in real jeopardy. We have an institutional deficit that goes 3% the wrong way every year into the future, and one might say we're on a path towards fiscal bankruptcy. And it is certainly true that our long-term city budget is unsustainable as it's currently constrained. And that affects everything we promise to do and every new thing the city should do.
All right, Mike, I'm going to cut you
all
off.
right.
Hit your two.
I can go on forever, but I will attempt to address that in questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jasmine Hatmaker, it is your turn next.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Hatmaker. I was born in Eugene. I'm an introvert and usually prefer to be behind the scenes, focused on getting things done, but I love Eugene. I'm running for city council because I care about this community and I want it to be a better place for everyone. Eugene has so much potential to be so much more. Like many people in Eugene, my life has included periods of instability, difficult choices, and working really hard just to get by. Right now, too many residents in Eugene are struggling. Housing stability is the foundation for a strong, thriving community. We need more housing for all income levels. We need to build a stronger local economy together, one that improves quality of life for everyone. We need better support services for seniors, veterans, and our other vulnerable neighbors. It's time for City Council to have new voices with diverse perspectives and lived experience. A City Council that reflects how much our community has changed over the years. We all deserve a Eugene that is affordable and where everyone can thrive. There's a lot of work to do to make Eugene a better place for everyone, but I'm deeply committed to this community, and I look forward to proving that to you all. Thank you.
All right, and let's move into Ward 6, leading off with Greg Evans.
Thank you, and yes, it is indeed a pleasure to be back before City Club again, and thank you for the invitation. I'm just going to kind of give you the thumbnail sketch of kind of my life here in Eugene. I've been here for 40 years. This is my 40th year. My wife and I own a home in Bethel, which we've occupied for the last 25 years. And pretty much since I came here, I've been involved in one aspect or another of civic life in Eugene, whether it was working with, beginning to build the NAACP back in the late 80s, working on the Planning Commission. I also served on the Fair Board. I was chair of the Fair Board twice, and 7 years as on the LTD Board of Directors, and one of the accomplishments I'm most proud of is the implementation of MX on West Eugene. So as we move forward, I've spent the last 12 years of my civic career on City Council and still been involved in a number of different things, from kids sports, which my opponent here is. We coached together a few years ago.
Greg, keep that microphone up a little closer.
Okay, yeah. Ty and I coached together a few years ago, soccer. I'm the one with the book, you know. So that was not my sport when I was coming up. But I think the things that we really need to focus on right now in terms of what Eugene is really needing is, first of all, vision for the future. We need to know what Eugene is going to look like, or have an idea of what Eugene is going to look like in 10 and 15 years. We also need to be strong in terms of supporting our public works and our public safety profiles here in Eugene. We have not invested in the infrastructure of fire for nearly 40 years. We are in the same boat with police, as well as we are in the same boat with other services that go around and support that. So we need to work much more closely alignment with our county partners, our state partners, and our federal partners in making sure that we're delivering the services that our community needs and that our people want and request. It's becoming more and more difficult, as Councilor Clark has said, because we have an increasing problem of not having enough resources, financial resources, to sustain the kinds of service levels that people are accustomed to. So things are going to change. And they might not be things that we like necessarily, but I think that I'm prepared over the last 12 years of this to make the hard decisions that are necessary to move this community forward and out of the morass that we find ourselves in.
All right, thank you. And wrapping up, we have Ty Bruce Zimmerman.
My name is Ty Bruce Zimmerman. I'm running for Ward 6 City Council, and I'm born and raised Eugenian. I've been here, I was here all through my childhood, left when I was 18 after high school, bounced around the state a little, Ashland, Klamath Falls, North Bend. And when it was time for my wife and I to figure out where our forever home was going to be, where to settle down, it wasn't a choice. We just came home to Eugene and started putting down our roots here. And for me, putting down roots meant diving into the community. So ever since I've been back, and over a decade that I've been here, we landed first as renters in the Bethel neighborhood, fell in love with the neighborhood, and a year and a half later, after our landlords decided to sell the house and we got a no-cause eviction sent to us, we had 60 days to figure out where we were going to land, and so we bought a house in the neighborhood with the help of my family. We wouldn't have been able to do it without that help, and we wouldn't have been able to do it at today's prices, but in 2017, we were able to survive that and settled into Bethel for good. We're now raising our now 6-year-old in the Bethel neighborhood, and I've just been as dedicated as I can to community building out where I live. I reactivated our neighborhood association, the Active Bethel Community, and I've been co-chair of that ever since the reactivation process in 2018. I also served 7 years on our city's budget committee, 4 as chair, and my commitment through everything that I've done is about community building, about engagement, about being present, bringing as many voices as possible to the table. As chair of the budget committee, I opened every meeting asking the committee to ask themselves who wasn't in the room, pay attention to those missing voices every time. And that's the commitment that I plan to bring to the city council as well. For me, it's all about, the work is about coalition building and bringing as many people together as possible and finding those solutions that are best for our neighborhood, for our city, for our community at every level. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for those answers. For our first question, Mike will be leading off with you. The 2 wards that are on stage here are both on the northern edge of Eugene. Are there any topics that you feel affect the constituents in your area that do not receive the attention that other areas, like here in downtown or maybe the University of Oregon area, do receive?
I know that Greg will have quite a bit to say about that. In that Bethel and West Eugene in Ward 6 has been kind of left out of the amount of attention that have gone to other parts of Eugene over time. But I will say that in Ward 5, there are issues, a lot of which have been spoken to and will be raised in everybody's day-to-day quality of life that affect everyone, including in Ward 5. And the reason I focused on our overriding issue of affording all the promises that we've made is because it affects everybody's quality of life. And the current council majority's solution is to look to the state legislature for an increase in our ability to raise people's property taxes and to alter measures 5 and 50, where I believe that the solution is to grow the size of the pie instead of every year a budget, us arguing about one slice versus another slice of an ever diminishing pie. We should have the approach to grow our local economy and to increase the size of the pie and the number of taxpayers that participate in it. And that's
We're running out of time on you, sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, going in alphabetical order. Greg, we heard you name checked there. We can go to you next. There is a third microphone down by your feet there, too. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, Mike teed me up very well on this one. We have, as most of you know, if you come through the Highway 99 corridor, we've got significant challenges in terms of managing our traffic situation, in terms of our homeless or houseless population. We're continuing to grapple with those issues as well as losing businesses along the corridor. It is critical that we strengthen the weakest links in our community. And right now, the front door to Eugene is Highway 99. It always has been. If you're coming down from Corvallis or you're coming in from the airport, you want to see a more robust, vibrant community than you see right now. And my goal, and it has been my goal for the last 12 years and before that, is to make sure that we have a healthy, vibrant community, that we have places where people can shop and feel comfortable with going to, you know, get dinner or just go out and buy something in your neighborhood, in your community, and not have to drive across town to do it.
All right, and that runs into the minute there. All right, thank you, sir. All right, moving down in our order, Jasmine, you are next.
I would say that some of the problems that affect Ward 5 the most and Eugene as a whole would be housing affordability. In Eugene, there are 51% of our population that are renters, myself included, and I know I speak for a lot of us when I say that we're not really sure if we'll ever get the opportunity to be homeowners based on the current situation. And so I think that we just need to be doing more to use all of the tools at our disposal to have more housing for all income levels, and also work with organizations that are focused on housing affordability as well as for the low income housing, and then also improving the quality of life through a stronger local economy. And with the deficit that we have the history of having, I think it's also important that we're looking at more ideas for generating more revenue so that we're able to support the services and needs of our community.
All right, thank you. All right, Ty, you're next.
Yeah, it's good that Greg and I each get a minute because there's a lot more than 1 minute of things to say about what Ward 6 needs. As mentioned, Highway 99 is finally getting a little bit of attention. It was in the Mayor's State of the City address. Better Eugene Springfield Transportation is starting to look at projects out there. Needs so much work. But beyond that, just Ward 6 needs the attention of the city. It needs to be treated like it's part of Eugene. Ward 6 is such a deeply residential neighborhood that I feel like the rest of the city takes Ward 6 for granted. If you don't live out in Ward 6, who turns left off of Highway 99 or right off of West 11th and actually comes into our neighborhood? What for? We don't have any particular commercial amenities except maybe if you go to Winco, you hop off Beltline and back on. as in the campaign, one of the things people want to do is meet all the time. And people always ask, is there a coffee shop in your ward we can meet at? We're the only ward where the answer is no. So at ABC, in the Neighborhood Association, we've been working now for a couple of years with the city on a city planning effort. There's going to be a work session on next steps coming up later this month. And the wish list there is exactly the same as the wish list in the 2015 version, the Build a Better Bethel project that never saw implementation. So these are things we've been talking about and needing in our neighborhood for a really long time. And the next step is to actually move it forward.
All right, thank you. All right, and Athena, you get to wrap us up.
In regards to neighborhood issues, I think one that is not talked about enough in Ward 5 is the patchwork east of River Road. The residents there have a lot of issues when their neighbor is not a city resident and doesn't have to follow the same regulations. There are issues when things get annexed. We need to be annexing responsibly. We need to make it easier to annex. That's a very neighborhood-specific issue. Another thing is you said maybe issues that aren't downtown, but Ward 5 residents work downtown. They go downtown to use commercial areas. Many are terrified to go downtown. Many are distressed when they go downtown and return home and see a condemned house right next to them. I think that doing something about those condemned houses, or trying to do more to get people to sell their condemned properties when they inherit them. I will say some neighborhoods I've talked to people, and many of the neighbors know exactly which condemned house bothers all of them, and then they all go downtown and see people sleeping on the literal street, and then come back and see a condemned house where someone could live if we were to build a home there.
All right, I've got to cut you off there. That's a minute. Thank you. All right. So this next question is going to go to you first, Greg. So according to the most recent census estimates, Eugene was the largest metro area to lose population in the last year. Unemployment is up a full percentage point in the last year, and the number of jobs is down by about 900. How do we bring more jobs to Eugene and help push the city back into a growing trend?
So I've got 1 minute for this. You know, we really need to be focused on doing what we can to create the kind of environment for private investment in our community. We need the jobs, we need the tax revenue. One thing I would like to clear up that was said earlier, we don't run deficits at the city. We have to have a balanced budget every year. It's by law that we have to do that. What it is we are putting off things that we should be investing in, whether it's road maintenance or other things that we can, purchase or whatever the case may be that the city needs, that we haven't done it. But we really need to make it friendly for us to have private investment in this community. Before, it was the wood products industry, the forestry industry, which is the backbone of Eugene and Oregon. That has changed significantly. A lot of those people got out of forestry, got into commercial real estate. Now we need other forms of commerce to improve our standing here. We are in competition not just with our friends up north in Portland or Seattle, but we're in competition with people all over the country. And so it's critical that we position ourselves in a way that makes us attractive to those businesses that are going to come in and provide the kind of jobs and the tax revenue that we need to support our community.
All right, word time, sir. Thank you. All right, Jasmine, you're next.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah. So the basics of it is how do we bring more jobs to Eugene and help push the city back into a growth trend?
I would say that one of the reasons that one of my top priorities is the stronger local economy is so that we're able to do things like that. There's a lot that goes into having a stronger local economy, and part of it is making sure that we're set up so that businesses want to come here and be a part of our community. We need to have a collaborative approach with organizations that are focused on economic development, like the Eugene Chamber and CEDO, or Collaborative Economic Development Oregon, and also partner with groups like Lean Workforce Development, and make sure that we're also making the permitting and licensing process easy for small business owners so they're able to start businesses as well. And I would say that we should also be just thinking more about who we should be reaching out to as far as the businesses, to see what it would take to make them want to come and invest in our community,
All right.
while
That
also
runs
still keeping sustainability in mind.
All right, thank you. All right, Ty, question to you next.
Yeah, this is one that I think Ward 6 really exemplifies both the problems and some of the potential solutions to. We're a very working class neighborhood, so you want to talk about where in Eugene are these job losses or the lack of job growth felt most dearly. It's to the people that live out in Ward 6. And meanwhile, out in Ward 6, we have the Clear Lake overlay zone, which is meant to be an area of job growth, but we haven't yet been able to get enough infrastructure in there to attract. So far, more than just one business has started to try to come in there. And we need more. Developing those jobs out in our neighborhood is what we need, but instead, what we're seeing, like Greg mentioned earlier, is we've got businesses along Highway 99 closing. Instead of job growth, we're losing jobs. So there's a lot of pieces. It's always, every one of these questions is way too complex for 1 minute. But there's stabilizing the jobs and the businesses that we have, making sure that we aren't further losing those jobs that already exist, and then bringing in and developing new ones to hopefully build that tax base and try to fix some of the structural long-term budget issues we face. And it's a big lift, but a lot of it's out in Northwest Eugene.
All right, thank you. All right, and next we go to Athena.
I want to pay attention to our thriving nonprofit sector in this. One thing that I saw when I was spending time in Iowa City is they offer micro grants for people who want to start a small business. It's not very much money, like $250, but I think that just having that out there, being able to have people apply, it inspires people to think about what ideas they have, to work on what they could add to the community. I love the idea of people coming and investing in our community.
All right, great, thank you. And Mike, you get to wrap us up on this one.
Thanks, sir. The subject of my first 2 minutes was really about this more than biographical information, because I do think this is the central question that we have to face over the next several years as a community. The Southern Willamette Valley Innovation Corridor can be a big part of this. That's a really, really important effort to do more to leverage the University of Oregon and Oregon State University and the technologies that come from that to create new manufacturing opportunities and new industries in our community. And we have to be able to look at this and not use the word growth as a dirty word anymore in our community. The tax base of our community needs to grow for us to afford the kind of life we want here, and for all the promises that we've already made. To address my friend's comment as well, we have a structural deficit in that with the promises the city has made, we have a growth of 7 to 8% per year of the cost of paying people to work for the city, and a cap of 3% growth on the revenues that come in. So we're going the wrong way every single year, and we have to reverse that by making the pie bigger for everybody. It's the only way for us to be able to afford the housing that we need. And that's correct, that one of the big parts of how to grow our economy can also be we need to build more housing, and not just a little, a lot more housing.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to have one more question so we can get to some some questions from the audience here. Eugene, like many Oregon cities, is in a budget crisis. We've spent a lot of time talking about that so far today. property taxes are capped by state law. I may be new here, but I have already learned if you say the word sales tax, we start talking about punishments for me akin to what happened in the Salem witch trials. Can you give me examples of policies you'd push for to either raise money or cut spending? And I am talking specifics here, nothing like find waste or look for new revenue, look for inventive ways for new revenue. And Jasmine, let's start with you on this one.
You said we could talk about generating more revenue.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have ideas for new ways to make money, great, yeah.
I think that generating more revenue is something that's very important in this conversation. One of the things that I've considered is a vacancy tax. It has been successful in some other areas. It wouldn't be anything that was too crazy or too high, but it has been successful in some areas for generating moderate revenue, but it also works to do other things like encourage development and encourage permanent housing as well. And it would apply potentially to properties that have been sitting vacant for long periods of time, or short-term housing, or vacation properties, abandoned buildings that maybe the owners don't live in the state, or that they're just not paying the taxes and the properties are falling apart. And
Yeah, that was time, so.
Sorry.
But yeah, that's all good.
and there are plenty of other ideas too.
Yeah, all right. Ty, you're next on this one.
Yeah, so in terms of new revenue, there's really only two ways to do it. You either come up with some sort of new tax or fee that we don't already have in place right now, or we build new construction and increase our property tax base. And that second one's a whole lot better for the community. We put together a committee 2 years ago to try to do number one, and they spent a year digging through about 60 plus different options for new revenue from taxes and fees. They brought back what they felt was the best one they had found, and our community fractured over it. And I think that's an example of what's going to happen anytime we try to go back to the well for new sources in that way. So what we need is that property growth, that development, and it comes with not only an increase of the tax base, but also the new jobs that our community needs. And so that's the route we have to go on the revenue side, unless the state can make changes at some point in the future on measures 5 and 50, which do need to be reformed, not to let us raise the property taxes, but to let new construction come in at its actual value. That's the piece of those measures that we really need to adjust, but we're going to get outside of my minute real fast if we go there.
All right, excellent. All right, thank you. Athena, let's go to you next.
I do have to say I agree with the previous two answers. The vacancy tax, wonderful idea. Making sure that when new properties come in, we can evaluate them to their actual value by amending measures 5 and 50. I also really like to see the idea of a different fee or some kind of non-tax, like fine this. A lot of residents don't like to see vacancy. Another thing that people have told me is that we don't enforce some of the fees that we're supposed to be enforcing, like parking fees that the city does. So just raising revenue with all of those methodologies.
All right, thank you. Let's work that microphone back down here for Mike.
There is one simple answer for this question. We must grow our local economy. There's only one way for us to grow our way out of the tax problem we're in, and it's not that all of you should pay more. That answer is the wrong direction for us to go. To try and find new ways to tax the people that are already here is a mistake. No one wants to do that. We have to grow the pie and add more taxpayers, not increase the rate of taxes on everybody else. We're already all paying far too much for the kind of life that we have here. And as I mentioned, the Southern Willamette Innovation Corridor is an effort to try and fundamentally change the way the university is interacted with to create and spawn new industry and new manufacturing in our community. It's one of many opportunities and ways we can, but it's the only way, by adding more taxpayers, not an increase in tax rates, that we will be able to afford the things that we've already made promises to do, much less any new promises we might make.
All right, thank you, sir. And Greg, you get to wrap us up on this one before we take a break.
Well, I don't think there's much that I can add as what's already been said. We need new tax revenue, period. We have two legs of a three-legged stool: income tax, property tax, and estate, and nobody has been able to figure out how to reform measures 5, 50, and 47. And so that basically goes back to the state legislature and what the state legislature can do to give us some kind of tax relief and be able to create a better system than what we have right now. But sales tax in Oregon has been defeated 9 times. I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon. So we're going to have to figure out other creative ways to fund the government services that we all are expected to have, whether they're in public safety, they're in parks, pools, whatever recreational facilities are necessary. And then we need to be able to leverage our assets here locally so that we can actually make more money and create more revenue. So the sports park at Golden Gardens will be an opportunity for us to do that and to bring in more tourism revenue. We have some opportunities that we have not been able to avail ourselves of because we haven't had the investment in the facilities that are necessary to create those revenues.
All right, I'm going to have to cut you off there. We're going to take a quick break to collect up some of those questions that you all have been kind enough to write down and allow the folks up here to have a sip of water and stretch their legs. So we'll be back in a few minutes.
In the metro area of Lane County, they broadcast on 89.7 FM and in Florence on 88.1 FM. For those listening at home or in transit right now, your household is one of several thousands tuning in to KLCC City Club program. We're grateful and honored to have you. You can also find all recent City Club programs archived at klcc.org, as well as on our YouTube channel and the City Club of Eugene podcast.
the sake of joking about how my job makes me time obsessed, and I'm the last one up here. So here we go. All right, well, let's lead off with a question that kind of dovetails nicely with the last one that I asked you all. We all talked about new sources of revenue, but someone asked about what do we cut if we have to cut? Ty, I will lead with you on this one.
So there's no easy answer to this because we've been cutting for 20 straight years. That's where what Mike's talking about with the structural deficit is that every year we look at how much it's going to cost to pay for the list of services we had the year before, and we look at what our revenues are going to be, and every year there's a gap that we have to close to get that balanced budget we're required to produce. And we have already cut everything that is vaguely comfortable to cut. We are at a place where every single time we talk about what to cut next, the conversations are going to be really, really hard. Are we cutting into our public safety net even further when fire hasn't increased its FTE since 1981? That's not an acceptable option to me. Are we cutting our cultural services and our library budgets that are what makes Eugene such a great place to be, what draws people here and gives us the workforce that we need to be able to grow new jobs? That's not acceptable to me. But at the end of the day, we have to make those hard decisions, and I don't have a clear answer of this is the one thing we should cut. Everything really matters, and we've cut all the fat off already. We've got a really lean budget. We're run really efficiently, contrary to some of the stereotypes about how government spending works.
I actually got to cut you off there.
And cut my cuts.
Yeah. Speaking of cuts. All right, Athena, you're next on this one.
I would fully agree with Ty. There is nothing to cut anymore. Everything has been cut that can be cut. I want to focus on what absolutely cannot be cut, ever. And those are library, cultural, and recreation services for me. I am going to focus on what I want to defend rather than what to cut because, as Ty said, you can't cut anything anymore.
All right. Mike, we'll come on down to you for the next answer.
Short-term financial forecast has us between $2 and $10 million under our capacity to pay for everything next year. Long-term financial forecast have that increase, have that number, $2 to $10 million short of paying for what we already do every single year into the future. So that's why I'm so strident about the fact that we have to create new taxpayers. However, we have 39% of the general fund goes towards public safety and police. The 22% of the general fund goes towards fire and EMS. And 16% goes towards library, recreation, and cultural services. The other percentages are administrative, planning, and public works. Those are, frankly, mostly funded from other sources outside of the general fund. But those are the dollars that we have the ability to decide about how we're going to spend them. So the percentages back and forth of the departments and areas I've just listed are going to be the conversations we have to have for the foreseeable future because we've spent ourselves to this point until we see new revenue growth or until we have some, frankly, really uncomfortable conversations. I recognize I didn't answer that question directly. Let me say, I'm not sure I agree with Athena. I think that fire and EMS is more important, and we're going to have to make some decisions that are priority setting, one versus the other, in the short run.
Thank you. All right. Greg, we'll hop on down to you on the other end here on this one.
Well, as tempting as this is, I will say something controversial here. We have a community here of about 250,000 people in the metropolitan area between Eugene, Springfield, River Road, Santa Clara. And then we go out to about 400,000 countywide. One of the things that we need to do is we need to think about how we deliver services differently. And that means that we need to get away from the balkanization that we have in this community. That, you know, Springfield stuff is for Springfield, Eugene is for Eugene, Wayne County is this and that. What we really need is what a lot of other people have across the country. So, for instance, we have 2 library levies on the ballot coming up this spring. One for Springfield, one for Eugene. There should be a Lane County library. That makes sense so that everybody can have access to it, can come into it. We can reduce the cost of administrative overhead. And we're trying to do the same thing with the merger of the fire departments. Now, you know, that has taken us over 10 years to get to the point where we're at right now. However, it's the move that we have to make. And it's not just with fire, but at some point it's going to be police, and it's going to be libraries,
All right.
it's going to be parks. Those are the things that we need to be able to consolidate administratively so that we can
Thank you,
save
Greg.
dollars.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. All right, and moving on to Jasmine on this one.
I think that everyone so far has made good points, and I do agree that we need to be ready to have difficult conversations about what needs to be prioritized. I do think when it comes to things like with our first responders, that should be a priority because they are the ones that are saving people's lives and people that are in danger. And I think that we also need to consider the community's priorities and the people that would be impacted the most by the cuts that are made. And I do know that we've made a lot of cuts over the years, but I think that for me, because I like to do my research, I would still like to see a more thorough version of the budget with detailed line items, because knowing the details matters to me as well.
All right, thank you. So let's move on to something that we have danced around and talked a little bit about here, housing affordability. What tools do we have that we need to reconsider? What tools do we need to maybe make better use of? You know, things like MUPTI, which, given that this is a very heavily renter-oriented community, is MUPTI doing what we want? Are there other incentives we need to consider when it comes to getting more houses in this community? And Athena, we'll lead with you.
I have noticed when I knock the apartments on Goodpasture Island Road, I skip a lot of doors. And that is because university students are moving to North Eugene. They don't have enough housing in the university area, so they're forced to move into the apartments that I live by. I would love to upzone around the university area, build more apartments around the university area. Those students need more housing. I've had people ask me at the door, do we need more student housing? I say, yes, we do need more housing for those students. The only doors I'm knocking that it is a student are grad students, and I think that is appropriate to have them living in our part of town. Housing affordability. I think that's, that's good.
Yeah, that covers. All right, thank you. Mike, let's move on to you here.
Would you ask that question
Yeah,
one more time?
in my roundabout way from my vague notes, I'll do what I can. So with housing affordability, what tools are we using properly, or do we need to reconsider? You know, things like, is MUPTI doing its job? Do we need other things that would help us get people to build more here?
We do need to incentivize and eliminate unnecessary regulation to how we build. But we have, over the last 10 to 15 years, told the industries that build housing that we are not open for business, thank you very much. We had an opportunity in 2015 to expand the urban growth boundary for residential housing and to add a balanced amount of land. The surveys that we did at the time, land survey, showed that we needed 1,500 acres, and we didn't add them. We added 0 new land for housing in our community. The council majority's decision have given us the whirlwind that we are reaping today. We need a good deal more land for development. We also need to make, and that reduces the cost of it. This is a supply and demand problem predominantly. We have a massive over demand and a massive undersupply. So everything is the answer. Everything we can do to incentivize more home growth in our community increases our tax base and makes the cost of housing less expensive for everybody.
All right, thank you, sir. Greg, down on the opposite end here, we'll go to you next.
Okay. I'll say this. We have a couple of tools in the toolbox, or maybe more than that. MUPD is one, but it has its limitations. LRPD, low-income development, is another tool that we have vis-a-vis the state. And then we have, some of the other pieces that go along with that in terms of, oh God, it'll come back to me. I'm having a senior moment. But anyway, we don't have a lot of tools to do the kind of housing development that we want to see happen and want to see done. We no longer subsidize low-income housing in this country. And so everything right now is market-driven. And what we have to do is we have to make sure that the market and the playing field is more level than it is. My wife came home the other day and said, "Do you know how much this house up on the corner of our street is going for?" And she said, "It's a $505,000, and it's 300 square feet less than our house." So
Greg, I gotta cut you off. Sorry, mid-story.
Go for it.
You launched into that right as my timer said stop. I was like, oh boy. Sorry. I know. It's tough to get these in 1 minute, but it's what we have time for today. Jasmine, if you can go ahead and try and get us there on this too.
Because our housing situation is in such a critical place, I think that we need to make a coordinated, collaborative effort with the organizations that are focused on more housing, like ones that are focused on low-income housing, as well as some of our builders and developers and others. I think we need to streamline and expedite our permitting process because that is costing a lot of money and people are choosing to build outside of the area because our permitting process is more complicated. We need to take advantage of the condo legislation that has changed the timeline for the liability. That is one of the reasons why there haven't been more condos built. And I think we also need to have conversations with builders and developers to see if there's anything else that we can do that would incentivize them to build in the area, as well as look at Corvallis and Florence that have been successful with their versions of the multi-unit property tax exemption to increase our production in that way as well.
All right, thank you. And Ty, you get to wrap things up for us on this question.
Yeah, so there's no one tool that we could implement that we don't already have that can be described in a minute. The way to answer this is a whole bunch of different options for a whole bunch of different situations to overall make housing easier to build. And that's critical because it works. It is a supply and demand issue, and if you can build enough housing, prices do come down. Some communities like Austin have shown that. There's a couple tools in their toolbox we could borrow that we haven't used yet, and a lot of things we've tried. So it's a huge question that requires way more time than we have for it. It could be its own forum, really. It probably should be. But in the meantime, I bought my house in 2017 for $208,000, and I could probably sell it today for almost $400,000. But if I did, I wouldn't have anything I could buy. So, and in 2017, the Eugene homeless population was around 1,500, and today it's probably 4,000. Those are not coincidental. Those are directly hand in hand. So the housing matters because housing and homelessness are the same issue. It cuts across our entire community in so many different ways. We must build more.
All right, y'all are probably going to hate me for this one because if you think a minute is short, I got the wrap it up sign, but I am going to squeak in one more question that's a yes, no, maybe give me a sentence or two to support if you feel the need. A question about losing alternative response in Eugene. do you think we need to get back to 24/7 alternative response? Will you say that yes or no, that is something you would pledge to do? And on this one, I believe, Mike, we'll be starting with you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But frankly, that's a policy decision that we should support that budgetarily, but it's also the chief's decision about where that is. That's a management decision. And so what that looks like in specifics is up to the staff and isn't a policy decision for council.
Thank you, sir. Greg, down on the other end.
I say yes.
All right. Excellent. You guys are making this great on me here. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Jasmine.
Yes, especially because 40% of the unhoused population is suffering from a serious mental illness.
Yes. All right. Ty.
Well, the one-word answer is really easy on this one, yes. There's a whole lot more to talk about, and it gets complicated of how to get there. But yes, absolutely, 100% yes.
And Athena, last answer on this one.
I also say absolutely, and I would say that as we saw with the taking down the flock cameras, something can be council's decision.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I will be handing this over to the good folks at City Club to wrap things up, and thank you all for attending or for watching online with us.
That's all the time we have for today. Please join me in thanking Athena Aguiar, Mike Clark, Jasmine Hatmaker, Greg Evans, and Ty Pruse Zimmerman. This has been our April 3rd, 2026 conversation at the City Club of Eugene. We'll be back next week here at Wow Hall in downtown Eugene on Friday, April 10th at noon. That program will be our forum featuring the county commissioner candidates. I'd also like to plug that City Club of Eugene is currently recruiting board members. If you're interested in learning more about the City Club Board of Directors, email us at cityclubofeugene@gmail.com. Thank you all and have a great weekend or week, and we'll see you next time at City Club.